My name is Jack Ross. I'm the CEO of Synergy CHC Corp, SNYR on the NASDAQ. I want to thank Vince and New to the Street for hosting us today, and thank everyone here for being here and listening to the story. What we're building at Synergy is a portfolio of consumer brands. We have 8 brands in the portfolio today, 2 of them which are revenue generating, our Focus Factor brand and our Flat Tummy brand. But what we're going to talk about mostly today is our Focus Factor brand. It generates 86% of our revenue today. We'll do slightly under 40 million of revenue this year and have about 10 million of EBITDA. So our Focus Factor brand it's a supplement, a vitamin and a supplement. It's been around for 25 years. It really started the brain health category. Brain health is the #1 issue that people worry about as they age. And the Focus Factor brand has a clinical study which is second to none in the vitamin supplement space. It's very rare to have a clinical study on all 52 ingredients. It's widely distributed. We've been in Costco, all stores in the US for 14 years, all stores Walmart for 18 years, CVS, Walgreens for 9 years, and we continue to keep adding distribution for the pill side of our business. It's grown CAGR growth since its acquisition in 2015, about 12.7% CAGR growth over those years. So although our supplement business continues to grow, supported by a strong clinical study by really the world's best retailers, we've seen a very strong niche that we want to explore in our ready-to-drink business, our beverages. About a year and a half ago, we went to our, obviously, our one of our best retailers being Costco and said, hey, would you guys consider trying this drink for us, piloting it to see if it would sell through. We came to an agreement with Costco to do the Texas region, all 44 stores in that region, to sell Beverage. Beverage is very different than supplements from a volume perspective. They expect $2,500 per week per building to be successful. And by the end of the 5-month trial in the Texas region, we were hitting those thresholds. So very strong results from our trial. But they had some feedback for us and they said, a couple of things, we'd like to change your packaging. We brought it back from a darker packaging to sort of more align with the pills to create that family look. So then we did another trial in Canada, all 102 stores in Costco, coast to coast, and it had very similar results. So then when we sort of said, okay, we understanding the beverage business, brain health is growing at twice the rate as the entire category of vitamins and supplements, meaning it's got double-digit growth. Vitamins and supplements as an entire category is growing 4.9%. And functional beverages, when you look at functional beverages, meaning focus and energy, is growing at about 16% a year. So when we're looking at, marrying the two up, massive growth on brain health side, massive growth on the functional beverage side, it made sense for us to dig in here. So what we did is we said, okay, we're going to need some capital on our balance sheet. So we went public last year, October, almost to the day here. I think Friday's our 1-year anniversary. We went public with an IPO with Roth Capital, $9 a share. And we originally were trying to raise $20 million in the market. Tougher market, we cut it back to 10. We recently raised with Bancroft another 4.6. And so we still got a little bit of a gap to do the rollout. But right now we're in a position where we're going full speed ahead with our plans for our ready-to-drink, meaning we're signing up DSD distributors in every state. We've just announced this week we've got another 3 states done with Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. And we did Alabev a couple of weeks ago, which is the state of Alabama. And DSD partners are very important to roll out of ready-to-drinks. And there's been a couple of really big acquisitions by Pepsi and Celsius lately. Celsius buying Alani Nu and Pepsi buying Poppi. And both of those were, in distribution with DSD partners. And because now they're coming back to the Pepsi family on the Pepsi trucks, it's created holes in the DSD network. So we're very fortunate in terms of timing where Focus Factor can plug into those DSD partners across the country. So our goal is to have our DSD network set up in all the states across the country by the end of the year. We've hired some incredible talent from the beverage space. One of them being Scott Woodburn. He's a senior VP at Coke, responsible for $3 billion worth of budget over there in food service. We just got back from our NACS show, which is the largest convenience store show in the country, in Chicago last week. Well received. We signed up, a few thousand retailers. Lots of momentum on the beverage side of things. We continue to grow on the pill side of things. Thing to mention too about Focus Factor, we just literally last week, we just got notice that we were the #1 pharmacist-recommended brand in the US last year, and forward for this year. So our pill brand continues to be the leader in the space. There's really a 3-horse race, but we're #1 pharmacist-recommended brand now in the entire country. You can see the long-term relationships with these retailers, 14 years, 4 years, 8 years, 18 years. We continue to add new retailers all the time, and we're growing in most of those accounts. I think we did a press release this morning where we added Kroger to the network. We've been trying to get Kroger involved for 5 or 6 years, so all of those are coming on. I think it was April that we announced there. So, this is sort of, how we'll call the drink markets evolved. 5, 6 years ago, it was really at the store shelf, it was really all about conventional energy. Red Bull, Monster, Rockstar, times 20 flavors, and that's all you really see in the sets. But, along came performance energy subcategory, Bang, Rang, C4, they all had functional aspects. And then the natural energy with Alani and Guru and Zoa. And so the sets have started to change. So meaning the retailers are looking at it now and saying, we really need to offer our consumers a wider selection and offer them functional beverages. So, when Celsius started in the market, incredible success story, but they started with weight loss and energy. They started with fat burn and energy, and now they really transitioned more to an energy drink and a lifestyle drink. But nonetheless, they really started making room for that functional benefit, dual benefit drink. When you start talking about Focus Factor, focus and energy, if you look at the white space in the space, a lot of people are doing the gut health drinks. A lot of people are doing the performance drinks like C4. We're pretty much alone in the focus and energy space. And with a 25-year heritage of being in the brain health category, we're not Johnny-come-lately just trying to do it. We're synonymous with focus and energy. I think with the tests that we did, we know it's going to sell through at retail. We got the capital on the balance sheet now to execute against it. We're adding the human capital, very experienced human capital to do it. We think we're in for some major wins here. Starting in the fourth quarter, we're now shipping this product, so it's actually going to retail for the first time. When we tested at Costco. So we originally went in with the darker look, more like Monster, if you will, sort of more millennial feeling. But the feedback we got, on the left-hand side here is the picture of, an outside back cover of Costco's magazine, and that was on there when we did the test. But we're on that outside cover of that magazine 6 times a year. So out of 12 times, they mail it to 60 million members. Focus Factor, with its pill business, it gets that cover 6 times a year. Their consumer knows the Focus Factor brand very well, 60 million members. So, their feedback was, basically, we think you need to soften up this dark packaging. You need to bring it back to the pill look. You need to marry the two, whether they go in the beverage aisles or whether they go in the pharmacy aisles. You can sort of spot the Focus Factor brand, and it brings it together as a family. So we made all those changes, and we're busy doing that, and then we retested the same thing in Canada. But you can see the pallets there in the store. So we're very confident about the sell-through, not only getting it into the stores, that's almost the easiest part, getting it in, but getting it off the shelf is pretty important. It's really just, just not guidance in any way going out there, but it's an important slide to say today, we're set up well for international expansion. We've got 22 trademarks around the world registered. We've done all that work. Today we're in Canada, we're in Mexico, we're in the US, we're in the UK. So today with our pill business, we're in 706 of Costco's 876 stores globally. So we already have relationships with them. We already have the vendor numbers in country. We're already doing business with them. So we're saying at $750 per week per building, that represents Costco alone, no other retailer, a $34 million opportunity for the beverage. At $1,500 a week per building, it's a $68 million opportunity, and they wouldn't even keep you in the stores at that level. They'd throw you out. So at $2,500 per week per building, which is their threshold, which we met in both of the tests, it's more than a $100 million opportunity. So, think scale here. It's going to scale, building our DSD network out for convenience stores and other retailers. Very much like the other beverages, they go from 0 to 200 or 300 million pretty quickly. We have the vendor relationships to, as long as it's selling through, to scale. A couple other opportunities we're seeing in the beverage side of things are focus factor shot. It's more like we'll call a 5-hour, if you will. So same thing there we're seeing is we think that, that slide I showed you where, it's really gone more functional instead of flavors. 5-hour today is 17 flavors, but no functionality. So we are introducing at the same time our focus factor shot with focused energy to put in that'll be shipping here by the end of the month, if you will, to the same DSD network. So we think there's a big opportunity there. We think focus factor aligns very well with a coffee as well. So we think about making it easy for people to put their brain health vitamins / supplement right in their coffee in the morning. And, big category, $28 billion category. So we think the beverage part of things will really accelerate the sales growth of Synergy. International expansion, we've talked about that. Costco really wants us to be everywhere they are. So meaning, we got Taiwan, we can set up. Mexico, we're incorporated there now. We've just done our 2 first hires there. We'll be shipping in Mexico by the end of the year. We've also talked to Sam's Clubs, Walmart in Mexico. Those guys are coming on. So lots of growth everywhere. Lots of growth domestically and lots of growth internationally. And on both sides of our business, our supplements continue to grow. And when you're coming from 0 and filling in all these distribution networks and retailers, obviously beverage can add up very quickly. So a little bit about our management team. We're a thin organization, meaning it's only 25 on the team. We use broker networks. We use DSD networks that help call on the retailers. We are adding substantially to the sales side for beverage with experience there. We're adding 10 more people. So, but it'll get us to about 35, but we're not a few hundred strong. We utilize other people's teams. So I'm the CEO and founder. I've been with the company since 2015, helped lead Synergy through the acquisition of 8 individual brands. Really what you would call a lifetime business builder and entrepreneur. When we did our IPO, it was a $10 million raise, and I bought 2.7 million of it myself at $9. So very committed today, standing here today, I own just under 50% of the outstanding shares of the company. So very aligned with the shareholders here. Jamie Fickett was the CFO of Focus Factor when we acquired it in 2015, and she was just recently named the CFO of Synergy when we went public as well. Baumler, he's a 9 years experience with Synergy and 30 years of management experience in consumer goods with some of the bigger names in the business, Rexall, Sundown, Novartis, Reckitt, to name a few. When you were sitting here talking about why would you buy Synergy stock, we're well positioned in growing categories. Brain health, double-digit growth. Our beverage category, functional beverage, double-digit growth. We're a leader in the U.S. brain health space. We actually started the category. We're the only one with a clinical study on the entire formula of our pill. We got differentiated multifunctional product portfolio, clinically backed, patented formula, established distribution partners. We're so lucky there. Long-term relationships with Costco, Walmart, BJ's, to name a few. A scalable asset-light model. We use contract manufacturing everywhere, so in country. So we make sure that, that dirty word tariff thing, if you will, we try to limit it as much as possible by making our products in country that we do business in. Compelling growth expansion strategies. I showed you some of the shot business, some of the coffee business, the RTD business. We have some new product development that we're doing around our ready-to-drink business as well. Robust financial performance. Even last year, we did $34.8 million last year in 24, and had $7.4 million of EBITDA. This year we'll just finish just under 40 and have about 10 million of EBITDA, sort of thing. So we're profitable already. With that, that's the end of my presentation. I'd like to open up the questions if anyone has any.